Eddie, is that an actual mic or is that just a recorder?
It's a recorder, it's not a mic.
Okay.
You can't make your voice louder.
Sibilance. I won't mess with your equipment then. You know what I mean?
What?
I won't mess with your equipment if you know what I mean.
I don't care. I'll just delete it.
Well, hey. Hi, folks. I'm Rich Thomas from Onyx Path. This is Eddy Webb. You might have heard of him.
A little bit.
The elegant man over there is Jess Hartley. We were trying to find out if we could turn the lights off so you could see this better, but I don't think we're going to be able to do that. One of these is mine. So we will do what we can with the delightful and crude audio visuals we've got. A lot of stuff we say here is in there, because when I made this, I cut and pasted from that. So,
including all the errors.
With all the errors, including the ideograms.
Ideogram.
So this is just a What's Up with White Wolf, which we've done, what, 5 years now? 6?
Oh, dear God. Has it been that long?
Sometimes called the Eddie and Rich Road Show. We do it all the cons as we talk about what we're doing from August, and at this point I guess September of 2013 through August of 2014. And you guys may have heard some stuff. We'll do some recap, and then we'll talk about the new things that we're working on, okay? And then probably have a little time for Q&A.
Yep, hopefully.
So what did we do last year? Well, we announced that we existed last year at Gen Con, and we've been actually working since 2012, January 2012, as an independent company, completely not legally connected to CCP in any way, except for our lovely license agreement with them where I get to do World of Darkness and both versions and Exalted as a licensee.
Licensee, yeah. We have licensee.
Eddie represents the licensor, so when we talk every week on our Monday meetings, lunch meetings, a lot of what we're talking about is, was this thing put in for approval from CCP, for their point of view on it? Are there any issues, anything we need to talk about? Eddie has since moved into actually also doing a little bit of business management thing for CCP.
Does that make Eddie your boss?
No one's my boss now.
No one's a boss.
It took me 50 years, but I'm bossless. But what he is the guy that now we have a great back and forth relationship on the license part of the deal, not just the books and the projects themselves. So it actually tightens everything up really nicely for.
Although amusingly, when we were originally part of CCP Transmedia, and Rich was responsible for the business side of things, and I helped with the creative side of things, and now Rich is in charge of the creative side of Onyx Path, and I handle the business side of things.
Except
so you tricked me into this.
Also, you're also a H20 developer.
Right.
And you do writing for other things.
Which is how I justify you tricking me into this.
Yeah, I'm so clever. And then last year we released Mummy the Curse. And I can actually say that without a guilty conscience now, because most of the packages for the deluxe editions are on the road at this point. So if you haven't got yours and you pledge for the deluxe, they're coming. They really are. As far as I can tell, the shipping company was doing maybe 2-3 books a day.
They are kind of big. They're big books.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. So we also released, that was Mummy, of course, was for New World Darkness. It was our new game. And then we also released the God Machine Chronicle, which is the de facto second edition for the New World of Darkness Cool Rules, as well as providing a default chronicle that anyone can play and enjoy and know what the deal is with it, which is basically focused on the God Machine. It's not something you have to drop your current chronicle in order to adopt. If you just want to play with the new rules, they are available free as a PDF from DriveThru. But it gives everybody a chance to get kind of into the God Machine story for really the first time we've made it a literal thing that you can actually adopt versus just a couple stories and mentions in different books. And of course, we also then for Classic World of Darkness, we did World of the Apocalypse 20th edition, the anniversary, 20 years of Werewolf, and it's a ginormous book.
Oh God, bigger than P20.
Yeah, it's
By like
than
20 pages, 30 pages?
I don't know if it's going to be bigger than the Mind's Eye Theater Extra Special Edition that By Night is putting together, which I think crushed the table while they were but it's definitely was a labor of love. Ethan Scamp and Bill Bridges absolutely went nuts with it, and it is obviously available PDF per on demand at Drive-Thru, which I'll be talking about that publishing model in a minute. But the deluxe is also really getting close to getting wrapped up by the printer. So very excited that these things are finally happening. As many of you know, at one point we closed down the old World of Darkness. I mean, you might have heard about it.
Classic World of Darkness.
But that was the old. But when we brought it back, it was the classic.
Oh, I see. I see what you did there.
It made it beautiful again. So one of the things that happened was that some of the game lines, there were books that had been said, well, yeah, we're going to do these, and then we never got to them. The world ended, ascension occurred. We did not do, or it did in your chronicle, we did not do the remaining 4 Technocracy convention books. So thought that would be a nice thing to do with Onyx Path, to come back and say, look, we know people really wanted these. We're going to hire guys to do it in what we hope is an appropriate style. Certainly visually, we used mostly all the old artists that we used back then to give it the same feel. Even though some of those logos they're just appalling to look at now, we kept them because those are the ones.
Oh, that art approval process was a fun conversation, let me tell you.
So in this last year, we managed to get 3 of those out. The 4th one's in layout right now. Is in layout because Ryan Macklin is improving the proof like we do. My year was incredibly taken up by running 7 successful Kickstarters. H20 Companion, which was our first one, and it was really the first time we even thought we could do something like that. We had no intention of doing any more deluxe editions after H20, but we were going to do some more books, and we were going to do them PDF on demand, which is our model. Except I kept getting emails from people asking if we were going to do a deluxe version that matched H20, because they wanted that special feeling of H20 to go also for this book, and so they go on the shelf together, and that's totally understandable. But it's really, really expensive to do these things. The printing process is, there's only a few printers that I would trust to be able to do it with the covers. And it was just prohibitive, except there's this wacky new thing that we heard about called Kickstarter. And the more we looked into it, I love that. Justin and I both go, send me these texts back. Do you see this one? Do you see what they're doing? It's pretty cool. Oh my God, they already got back. They're good to go. It's 2 weeks. Back then it was like 2 weeks. It was amazing. So I feel Justin to this day thinks maybe we jumped in a little bit too soon on it, but my thing was we better do it now, or we're gonna miss out on where this whole amazing thing is. And the reason we were into it, I think I do something later on, but it wasn't just to be able to pay for the deluxe part. It was this amazing community opportunity that we were seeing happening in Kickstarter. We had friends who we heard about it. That's their hobby, to go on Kickstarter and back things. Like, that's what they're doing now. So it's just a fun thing. It's probably a little to do with what they're backing, but mostly it's, isn't this cool? I got this thing. I pledged. So from there, we just went insane after that. H20 Short Revolution also for Vampire. The Deluxe Werewolf. Mummy and Curse, we did a different kind of Kickstarter. It wasn't starting as a deluxe, but we put deluxe features in as everyone told us kind of what they wanted and hit the stretch goals. That was pretty cool. And then we had a really interesting seminal moment of H20 Hunters Hunted 2, which was the first time that we really allowed people to tell us what they wanted and how they wanted it into the book, and created a book that was a lot more what the backers wanted to see than just what we just presented and went, well, we could put a fancy cover on it. And that kind of opened our eyes on a lot of things we could do, including then W20 Changing Breeze, which was the last one we did.
Yeah.
And it's really used that whole thing. So like there's whole sections of that book that were added because of hitting stretch goals and Kickstarter that people said, this is what we want. And then we started saying, which one of these do you want? So that was kind of cool too. Leading us to the single most funded tabletop RPG Kickstarter so far in the world, which was the Deluxe Exalted 3rd Edition.
How much money did it raise, Rich?
A lot.
600,000?
Not as much as you think is in my pocket right now.
Right.
Although, Eddie, if you want to reach in,
Later. That's private time.
that's scooting time. So, and again, like I said, I'll get into the Kickstarter stuff a little bit further in here, but that was what we did crazy last year. So I keep referencing to the publishing model because even to this day, and I don't know about everybody in the audience, the fact of how we're doing these things, it really is a continuation of what Eddie and I started with White Wolf back in the day, of moving away from the traditional distribution network, which I considered for decades to be broken, and moving to a place where fans and we are much more in communication. And of course, PDFs were the first thing that we did for that. Not only are we now releasing the PDFs for people to enjoy electronically, put on your tablet, computer, whatever, read it, play it, and putting more features into the PDFs in order to play with the various hyperlinks and stuff. We made a decision
2 months ago? Yeah.
to go back to something we've done earlier when we were first doing these, which is that we're releasing the PDF before we're releasing the print-on-demand or the deluxe version. Releasing the PDF so that anybody in the fan base who wants to send us an email and say, I found on page 42 you made a reference that doesn't make any sense, or you use an old term. Anything that we miss in our editing process, anything we miss in our development process, in the art direction process, we can change on a PDF. You, if you bought it, and are allowing DriveThru to send you updates, or messages about updates, you can then update that like that. So the ability to reflexively fix, I think, is an amazingly great thing about electronic publishing. We still then turn that into, and then we want to do a book, right?
Mm.
So we go in there. And we do the physical print-on-demand books. And that's, of course, in partnership with DriveThru RPG and their partnership with the printers. And so now, we're not going to put those out until after we hear back about the PDF. Could be 2 weeks, could be a month, but there is going to be a little time gap in there. So that if you see it, and it's the other thing about that is sometimes a fan will think, our community, am I driving you crazy by saying that? Yeah. Sometimes someone in our community of people who like what we're doing, would it be easier to say just fan?
Fans.
Will think something's wrong. But it's not what they would do. And so it needs to be changed. And so we're still, it's not a give us a list and we will make every single change because you know best. It's, these are the things that you found. I give them to a developer, whoever it is who's worked on the book, and they still will make the call. Do I make this change or not?
Right, because this is a lot less, like Rich is saying, a lot less of the community's driving exactly within the books, but more along the lines of developers are human.
We miss stuff.
You don't have so many eyes to look at this. You look at the same material 17, 18, 19 times sometimes, and you're going to miss stuff. So this is more of a chance to kind of, to get a whole bunch of eyes on it and go, oh, okay, I should have seen how that was spelled, right, or just completely skip my mind. So it definitely is helpful to get that kind of wide-ranging look of and just another set of brains on the prospect. Really helpful from a development perspective, but it's not the same as the fans driving the bus, as it were.
Right. And the fact is that we can't publish really that way. I mean, we can't change it to your personal game, right? I mean, so the developer has to make that call, but it opens up, and it opens up a conversation. I think that's a lot of value with the developer. A lot of our developers, Justin's one of the first guys to really jump into open development and just fling his stuff up on a wall and go, say whatever you need to say. This is awesome. I love this. Some of our developers became writers and developers because they like going away from the world and creating a new world and then presenting that world to people, and then they tell them that they're really smart and they feel good about themselves. And that's the kind of, so the open development thing can be really scary because now you're not going away from the world's right there. I've got to tell them things and I've got to talk. But more and more what we're seeing is that as you do that, as a creator, you see the benefit. You see the wonder of having somebody say to you right then and there, hey, what if you did this?
Right.
I always wanted to do that. I completely forgot for this book. And go to it. So
there actually is a counterexample of when we were doing V20 Companion. We did change some of the content according to the players' feedback. So there is a benefit to it in certain cases when it does happen, because if you guys don't like what's in the books, you're not going to buy the books. So it makes sense for us to listen to you and give you the book a you
But
want.
again, to me, as long as that's within the purview of the person, who is supposed to take care of what the book is supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah, there's certainly been a couple times.
This was like first developed drafts, and
Right.
it wasn't in the changing at the proof stage.
No, exactly, and I mean, I know I saw that in Rights, for example, Rights of Blood. I was like, I'm not sure if people really like this, and like, oh, there's a lot of engagement. Like, oh, okay, maybe I should develop that out more, and vice versa. A couple places like, this might be cool, and there was a lot of negative reactions. Like, well, let me pull that out then. So, yeah, the first drafts, that kind of context is really, really helpful to make sure the book's actually what you guys are looking for, rather than what we think you guys are looking for.
Yeah, it's a great place to validate the idea. I don't know if you guys have read the drafts of Anarchs that I've put online, but throughout that book, there's this idea that the Anarchs are sharing their disciplines a lot more than had been previously assumed. So that thaumaturgy is actually really moving through the ranks of the Anarchs. And there were a group of people who complained about that, and it was mostly Tremere players, so I knew I did the right thing.
So just to explain a little bit now, a lot of times, one of the feedback that we get, I understand this, because for years I wouldn't let us do print-on-demand books, is that print-on-demand is no good. The one I got it like 4 years ago, and it was all smudgy and it wasn't good. Print-on-demand quality that we're getting now from Drive-Thru and their partners is really good, and sufficiently so that I think, particularly if you look at the prestige color editions, the binding I think might be better than a lot of them. Like, I don't think it's better necessarily than the deluxe themselves, but certainly than some of the books we had found back in the day. So that technology just keeps increasing and getting better. In fact, we couldn't do H20 in a single color volume when we first did the demand version of it. We had that in 2 book set because the printer couldn't do it. Once they sort of evolved their technology, now Werewolf 20, which is a bigger book, is all one volume color and bound up nicely and solidly. So that's changing. The other thing I want to point out, because I get a book. What? It's like rather than considering Drive-Thru a place where you can just get PDFs, consider them a place that, like Amazon, you can actually order a book. And their customer service is phenomenal. I don't want to say that because Matt's just sitting here in the audience, but I'm really so happy to be working with those guys. They'll find a problem, dig into it. I mean, sometimes even it's a software thing. They're calling off their computer guys to come in. I mean, it's nuts. And they're really good at that. And I think it's just as easy, and in some ways maybe customer service-wise even better than Amazon. See the book you want, decide the format you want it in, click on it, credit card, whatever you're doing, and boom. And just so you know, there's 3 kinds. There's grayscale, standard color, premium color. We talked about premium color. It's like their upscale version of that. It's expensive. And it's not like expensive like, oh, we're going to charge you guys more because it's premium. No, it's really expensive to print. So if you look at that, when we're setting the prices, because we don't have to put them in stores anymore, what we're doing is we're looking at how much it costs to print and then how much can we, say on top of that to make a reasonable profit without going crazy with us. And so those books are beautiful. If you can't afford the standard color, also excellent books. Just they're not premium and they're a lot less expensive. And of course, grayscale for the when it's appropriate. So, and then of course the deluxe Kickstarter books. The one thing that is worth pointing out here, and I've tried to get this message across, but I'm going to keep hitting this dead horse with a drum, I think, is
what?
We want. It was like 9 metaphors. I just tried to work into one.
You sure you every metaphor at once?
I'm not a writer. What do you want? Is that the Kickstarters are independent of what we're doing with the regular editions of the books. So the publishing model, PDF, print on demand, we're going to do that with every one of our books. And sometimes, hopefully, we build our PDFs up into even more high-quality ebooks as time goes on. But that's going to be one thing. The deluxes will float around there depending on timing, depending on what other Kickstarters we have to do. I can face going back to creating a Kickstarter when we said we will. It's exhausting. So it's not just. I think there's one issue is that it's seen as a pre-order at this point of these deluxe things, and it's really just not. Kickstarter is a whole separate entity. We put a lot of fun things into it. I think making beautiful books is the reason we're doing Kickstarters. But the stretch goals also are the things that we were just talking about, where things will be added that we never either. Well, I should say no. Sometimes we wanted to put them in and we don't, so then we offer them as stretch goals. Sometimes they're projects that were pitched, like Phil from H20 had like I don't know, 24 different projects he wanted to do. And I was like, Phil, we've got to make H20 first, and then what do we want to do? And some of them were cool, but we're kind of limited, so we're going to save those for stretch goals for when we do the Kickstarter for Mage. That way, the whole process of Kickstarter enables us to be able to do cool new projects and add things to the books that we would maybe have cut for word count or other reasons, but now we can put them in. And then we talked about the fact that really we're not in your friendly local game store. That is not because we hate retailers or your local game store. We love a great game store, and there's so many supportive retailers out there who have, over the years, stuck by us through thick and thin. We don't want to screw that up. But our business model is not to engage in how do we get these books out on time. If we don't get these books out to the distributor can't get it to retail, the distributor can't get it to retail. For example, they would cut the orders. So they made an initial order, we get those number of books printed that we know will go with that initial order, and then we missed their deadline. Could have been by a day, could have been whatever. They would cut the order 40%. But you've got stores who said they want it, you're late. We have to keep you online. So instead, we're not worrying about that. We're going to put out the books when we know that they're done and when they look phenomenal and when the material in there has been as reviewed as we could possibly do it. And we're not going to put out a book that might be crappy because the schedule says we don't get it out at all, or if we're going to miss that deadline, it's going to actually fail in the marketplace and we will lose money, which at the end of the day, as much as we love everything that we're doing and we wouldn't be here if we didn't, because nobody gets rich in this business. Okay, puns avoided. Yeah. We do have to make money in order to keep doing this. So it is a business thing. So what we've done for our retailers is there's always a retailer tier with our Kickstarters, and we have a very beta version of a retailer discount program with drive-through and on a print on demand. So if they want to get books into their stores, they can do it. It is not the same discounts, it is not the same setup as traditional distributor. I'm a retailer, I order from a distributor orders from one wolf, printer sends the stuff to the distributor takes it to the retailer. That's a whole sort of chain of costs and benefits, and we're just not in there. So it's a different thing. Sometimes a retailer will get shocked because they expect a certain, why is this not at this discount price? Because it's print on demand. If we gave it to you at that level, we would be losing money every time you order the book. That's just dumb. So.
But as a player, that actually helps you because there is no physical overrun of inventory that has to be A, printed without being sold, and B, stocked and kept somewhere, and C, shipped at a guess to a store that wants it. So all of that stuff has to be paid for. With that cost gone, that actually comes off the top of the price of the book. So.
Right, and then also for the retailers, it's like if they order 5 copies and then the 20 more people want it, you don't have to worry about, okay, is there another print run? Can you available? They just order 20 more copies and they come right in. So the retailer can actually target exactly what their customer base for the retailer is and get exactly those amount of copies. So everyone really benefits.
It's the same benefit as print on demand in general, which is, it's an eternal and 24/7 bookshelf. Go there, order your book. You don't have to worry about it being out of print. Or the guy sold his last copy. They're always there. So, now's the good part. What's coming up next year? So I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. You guys, the brochures are here that basically has the same information that you can read through at your leisure. I'm just going to try to hit the high points, and because this goes on for 12 months.
A gazillion years.
Yeah. So, Strict Fiction Anthology is already out. What we've been doing with the Chronicle Books is putting out a fiction anthology before that. Kind of gives the flavor, kind of gives some story ideas, things that you could do. So you're not coming to the thing cold. Go to pick up the Chronicle book when the Strict Chronicles hits, and you go, it's pretty cool, but I still don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for. Why are the Stricts scary? How many stories was in there? 12? Something like that. 10 to 12 stories that tells you exactly why the Stricts are scary. Convention Book Syndicate, we're talking about the convention books. That one, Hunter's Hunter 2, the PDF print on demand version is available. And May mummy ready-made characters will be this month. Promise, maybe. Not
Totally.
making promises up here.
This
No
month being
problem.
August, because that's what's
Colin?
September, Void Engineers, like I said, that's improving right now. I don't think we're going to necessarily make it this month on that one. But we did have to do a fair bit of going back into that with, as Eddie was saying. So
Actually, do I take a moment to talk about the deadline schedules and what that really means?
So,
Since we're talking a lot about how stuff got
if you
missed.
haven't heard this speech yet, I'm sorry, let me turn it up. If you have heard this speech yet, I'm sorry, because I have to say this over and over again because it is really important. So, the schedule in here is, and up here, it's not really a promise. So, please don't write me and say you promised, because I didn't deny it. It is our framework for what we're trying to accomplish in the next year. As I already said, some of the things are already late. Some of them are going to be more late. If we can bring some in early, and it makes sense, we'll have them out early. The important thing is that this is the kinds of things we're going to do in the next year. You know, if let's throw one out. If the Demon Player's Guide, Flowers of Hell, is on.
Which one?
That's why I said the whole thing.
I see.
If it's on there, it's going to come out. We may not hit this month. But this is so we have something to work off of. If all we did was say, "Hey, make your stuff, and we'll publish it when you're done," we would really be in a very difficult situation because most creators can keep working on something forever. So we have to have at least a little bit of a structure, just not the crazy. If you don't get this in here, you're fired kind of schedule sort of thing that we used to deal with back in what Ethan Scott called the publishing treadmill.
Mm.
We were all on the publishing treadmill, and it hurts. You get real tired, you fall down, people laugh. No, wait, that was me in the gym. What did you, Changing Breeds? Like I said, Changing Breeds was an amazing Kickstarter. We got all kinds of text in. Is that out of editing now, Jess? All the new text?
Yeah.
Right. So it's still being edited, but then we'll get into layout, we'll get into the thing. It is definitely come on. Obviously, since we're talking about it now in September, but it was because we added so much material. I think.
Yeah.
What,
Tons. Yeah.
80 pages? Something.
I don't know.
Stu added up. Stu Wilson,
Yes.
the Werewolf 20 developer, added up. I think it was 80 more pages of material that we put in because of the Kickstarter.
Stu's machine.
It's great. And Guildhall's a Deathless, which is waiting for some kind of approvals. Somebody.
That was Colin's fault. We keep blaming Colin. Nobody's gonna hear this.
He's not here to defend himself.
So our new game, you know, last year was Mummy. Our game this year, Demon the Descent. Something we're very excited about. It is working with the ideas that were presented in God Machine in terms of just exactly what is going on in this world at a cosmic level. Really just absolutely love the idea that you know, the demons are, of course, as fallen angels, but they've fallen from being part of the God Machine. And now they're living lives where they're trying to figure out what they want to do next. Their entire existence has changed. And the God Machine's not all that happy, that parts of it are falling away. So they've got that level of conflict and that level of thing, but it's a Cold War, it's not necessarily a hot war. And when Rose Bailey pitched the idea to me originally, she basically said it was picture this taking place in Berlin in the 1950s, and John le Carré is writing it, and those are our demons, the basically espionage-based the feel of it. So it's pretty cool. Because all the third edition is not going to be out in October, but we may have something that people can see at that point. The developers, Holden and John and Jeff, are working really hard to get all the pieces together. All the third edition is like trying to fix a clock that's connected to 19 other clocks, and they're all still running. So every little piece that they try to fix spins out, and they got to hold it back and hold it. It's very complicated because it's not just the third edition that just trashes everything. It's a third edition that very much molds and melds the two previous editions together to create what we hope is going to be something that system-wise works for once, and setting-wise it's just as rich as everyone who ever played Exalted ever fell in love with this exception. So, a lot of hard work for this, and they've been doing it for over a year now. And the playtesting for their ideas has been going on for 2 years, or 3 years. And Cursed Acropolis DC. which is a book that came out of the Mage
Mummy.
uh,
Mummy Kickstarter.
Kickstarter. It was a stretch goal, and it was a book we weren't going to do. City books generally don't actually sell that well because they're kind of a subsector of different people. You know you're going to sell it to somebody who lives in that city, and then after that, it becomes a little more iffy. So we could do it on Kickstarter. And a whole bunch of stuff now. Here's something nobody cares about. Maze Ascension 20th Anniversary Edition. Phil Ricardo, of course, lead developer on that. He's been talking to Jess Hartley and Bill Bridges as the previous developers. And it's just it's huge. And Phil's wrapping up the last bit of his writing, supposedly by the end of this month. Then we have editing, then we have a review process that we're going to put it through to check various things. And then we have to make an index for it. So.
Oh yeah.
Demon Translation Guide, Rose tells me she's going to write it very soon. Strix Chronicle is actually just all 2 editing now.
Yeah.
That's what she said, which is awesome. And that is, of course, if we did God Machine for the classic, just not classic, for the New World of Darkness, but for the core blue book, Strix Chronicle is essentially Requiem 2nd edition. It's the rules we thought about for 8 years, wanting to change, tweak, play around with, also connected to the God Chronicle stuff, and the changes in the core rules. And then you get the whole Strix there as a, they're not the boogeymen of this idea that like anytime you walk down the street, a Strix is going to come out of the pellet you all over the place. They are a boogeyman in the sense that for the Requiem vampires, there's a certain level of paranoia that always exists of were they behind this event that occurred? Like throughout history, how much of these guys have to do with coming after us? And so it might be one of the other covenants, or it might be one of the other covenants working unbeknownst for the Strix. It might be the Strix themselves, or one of the other agents, or anything. So they're in there as a really kind of less physical presence that is going to get you, and more they're going to be screwing around with everything that you find important in your undead life. Arms of the Chosen, next book for Exalted 3rd edition. And Rage Across the World, which is our World 20 book that does what it goes around the world and gives you more rules, more interesting things. So we basically tied the locations to the kinds of other rules we would put into World 20, but it's already that thick. And so it's a little bit of a travelogue, a little bit of extra rules there. Darkening Sky. Here's one of those other books that we had talked about before we ended the Classic World of Darkness, and in this case it was a Dark Ages book from a single event, which was the eclipse of 1230, viewed through each chapter, viewed through each of the Dark Ages Vampire, Dark Ages Werewolf, Dark Ages Inquisitor, Dark Ages
Mage, there's Fae.
and Fae. So it's something that we had said we were going to do. We had some notes still on it. Farland still has some pretty decent notes on it, and I think it should be pretty cool. Anarch Sunbound is a book that Justin is working on, and we're actually working on the Kickstarter to get that up very, very soon. And of course, it's the Anarchs. H20, Anarchs. Hey. Yeah! we just played that last night. So. Mummy, first book of the Deceived, the next actual scheduled book that was for Mummy. It goes into kind of the bad guys for Mummy. And then so you're going to see Demon, there's DTD, Demon of Descent, Flowers of Hell. A little later on, you're going to see DTD, Player's Guide. For the same. When I wrote this up, I had given them Flowers of Hell as a title, and I said, I think this sounds pretty cool. You can run with it. At the same time that Matt McFarlane and Rose were talking about what else they wanted to do, none of the three of us actually talked consistently to explain that we were only talking about 2 books, not 3. So Player's Guide is actually Flowers of Hell. So you see it on it twice. It might come out either one of those days. We don't.
Or neither.
Yeah. In between me. I suggest in between. All right, January 2014. Hey, we're in the new year. Hunter the Vigil, Monstrous Bastards, which is just a title I made up. Conversation with the developer, Matt McElroy, and it's not intended to be a World War II thing. We're not going to kill Hitler in this unless you want. Probably a good idea. But what it does do is it does what Hunter did in individual books for vampires and werewolves and mages, and it says the other supernaturals that either came out after a Vigil or we didn't have a chance to deal with, like Prometheans, we're going to have chapters in there dealing with each of those other supernaturals and how the hunters deal with them. Matt, do you want to say a little something about it?
Well, we're also jumping ahead on the schedule and updating functions for the guide machine and rule set. Jess is working on the changeling set.
Lost me. Changing the Lust. And just in case it's not obvious, again, we try to put everything in a little tag that says what the game line is, but it's Hunter the Vigil, it's a New World Darkness book. It's not Reckoning or Fire on the cover yet. And then the Eddy who makes up these words? Is the Chronicle for that is the World Forsaken upgrade. It's the World Forsaken 2.0. And this is the anthology that starts that off, so you can get information about what's going to change, what's going to happen, what are the primary bizarre conflicts that are occurring through that. What did you put it in the right spot? Another Exalted the Realm. We're building Exalted. We're now building towards the Dragon Blooded. That will be coming soon. This is about the realm, obviously. Scarlet Empire, very, very important. Book of the Worm. If I have to tell you what Werewolf Book of the Worm is, I'm so excited about that. You're not a werewolf fan. No. It's obviously it's the monsters and creatures and Black Spiral Dancers.
And an update of Black Dog Game Publishing.
And Eddy's update to the Black Dog Game Factory part.
And the Icelandic discussion. Icelandic quotation.
In February, Rights of Blood.
Rights of Blood is a book about blood magic in Vampire the Masquerade, done through the perspective of the various different vampire sects and allegiances. So rather than here's a book about just these handful of clans like Tremere and Assamites, is look of how does the Camarilla view thaumaturgy, how does the Sabbat view thaumaturgy and Rite, how does even the Tamahe Ra and the Nkanu handle these things. So it's not just thaumaturgy, it's also anything that is ritual-based, that powered from blood magic. And we had a really passionate discussion during the open development phase, which caused some pretty strong rewrites of a couple of chapters, which is fantastic feedback. It is now all in editing, and having another vigorous debate with my editor about some of the elements of that, so this will be another strong revision pass, but the book is getting stronger and stronger each step, and I think it's going to be really, really fantastic when it's done.
Secrets of the Covenants for Requiem, and that's looking deeper into the Covenants in much the same way we did with the clan books several years ago. In this case, we're also looking at them with an eye towards the fact that the Strix Chronicle has come out previously, so there'll be upgrades and updates to the various Covenants based on how we've changed things with Strix. Mummy the Curse, Sophis Ascends. This is actually one of the key points of Mummy, where there's these Sothic turns, the cycles of existence, that at some point all the mummies pop up because they're on this turn, and the mummies are they sleep except when they're, for whatever reason, they're needed or they're disturbed, and yet sometimes it happens almost as a group thing, and it's a part historical setting because it's going to be about the various Sothic turns. But also all kinds of other things in there. A pretty good grab bag. Werewolf 20 the Umbra. Again, Werewolf, Umbra, kind of go together. Demon Player's Guide, there's that other one. And Exalted the Dragon Blood with Fire Has Wrought, which is the second of the types of Exalted, the Dragon Blood and the Elemental. Exalted 2. Basically are in charge. They're the ones in charge right now, and we're going to go into that a fair bit, including some details on because you have the Realm book, but we'll also look at Look Shy and other places where the Dragon and Blooded really have a prominent and important place. So, decided maybe we would want to go back in time a little bit and do a V20 version of Dark Ages.
Yeah.
This is something that we're really excited about, and David Hill's doing the development on that.
Yep. David Hill and I talked a bit at Gen Con about it, and ultimately it's going to be like V20. It's going to be, the V20 rules are going to be incorporated into a book, so it's going to be a big book. You can use it just as Dark Ages book. You don't need the other V20 material. And it's going to be a little further on. It's going to be 1242. We have a sidebar set aside for, yes, we know it's not actually Dark Ages, but roll with it. But it's going to be the idea, which is that we're going to take the V20 rules, reinterpret them slightly to get the maximum Dark Ages experience, and consolidating all of that Dark Ages material from Dark Ages and Vampire Dark Ages into one big book akin to V20.
Right. It is a V20 book. It's not the 20th anniversary, and there's lots
No,
of
it's the 20th anniversary of
say
the Dark Ages.
It's not the 20th anniversary of Vampire Dark Ages. It is what we did back in the day when we did Vampire Dark Ages. The very first Dark Ages book was take that game line and create a Dark Ages game with that. In this instance, it's the V20 book,
Right.
which is the source for that, and it's that look at Dark Ages. But I mean, obviously, we're not going to do it in a way that is no fun if you like previous Dark Ages.
But it is going to be a big book. Again, another one of those 500-page books.
We're all Forsaken, the Eddy Webb Chronicles.
The
that
Gam.
is-
The Gam Chronicle.
Eddy Webb.
Video game.
Play both?
It never stops being funny.
I'd make fun of the old man. It's funny. So obviously this is going to be our de facto second edition for Forsaken, and then the next Exalted book. I'm going to stop like getting into heavy detail in the Exalted books in this particular kind of conversation, but let's roll. First, the Acropolis Rio, another one of the books that came out of our Kickstarter, and it is the companion book. One of the things we're trying to do with New World of Darkness is every time we do a city, have a U.S. city and have an international city as well. That's both because we love all of our international friends and fans, and also because we like to kind of cover from two different points of view. How do you do a city there? How do you do a city there? It gives you a lot of nice, fun things. If you then want to take that information to your city, you got other templates than just like Chicago by night. So one of the things that happened when we did Onyx Path was we licensed the World Darknesses, both classic and new, and Exalted. But we also purchased a couple of the old White Wolf game lines, one of which is Sinai, one of my favorites, thank you. And we're aiming towards getting the first of those books for a new second edition of Scion, which we call Scion Origins. And then we're going to follow that up with Hero and Demigod and God, but we got a first book that we thought was important because kind of felt there was a hey, you got your child of God. Okay, here's your powers, go. Versus a lot of lead up that we could do for that of what was it like for you to grow up, and especially if you've read any there's a fair bit of young adult fiction, but there's also some other fiction when we deal with this American Gods and such. Does a great job of looking at these little things that happen in the course of your life that we go, what? I could do that? I talked to a bird? What? You know, so maybe not that. So, but H20 Digital Web. Okay. Can I say something here to all of you Mage fans? There are hidden Mage fans in the audience or overt ones. Mage 20 is going to have a Kickstarter. Then, several months later, we've got Digital Web. Say this out, say this loud, say it proud. Digital Web is not the only release for Mage 20th edition that's coming out. It's just the only one we have in this chunk of time because we left room after the Kickstarter for A, if the Kickstarter runs late, and B, if we come up with other projects that fill, like I said, have a list of 20, that fit out of stretch goals. We don't want them smashing into already established books that we said, hey, it's going to come out. So we're giving ourselves a little bit of room so that we can play with that sort of thing. This is just the first one that we knew we were definitely going to need to do. We got to do an edition of Digital Web. Fallen World is the Mage, the Awakening Chronicle. And this is the anthology that leads to that. Exalted, new idea for Exalted, but I'm not going to go into that. H20 Goals. Yesterday we had a fantastic outlining session of right here of what could be in this book, and You want to do a brief one sentence?
Ghouls have always been one of my favorite parts of Vampire, and this is an opportunity to collect all of the ghouls information from dozens of different books over 20 years into a new comprehensive book.
Demon Storyteller's Guide kind of is what it says. And once you read Demon, then you'll have ideas of what it is you want in that, and then we can tell you about it sometime. So for New World of Darkness, we're not doing a new individual splat in 2014. We're not doing a new Supernatural. We did Mummy, we did Demon. I looked at all that, we're trying to come up with which ones we should do, and the fact was is that there were other of the Supernatural game lines who haven't had a new product for a long time. And it would be really nice to touch base with those, talk about them, see what they're up to. So what we're doing is a book called Dark Eras. And Dark Eras is slice of timelines for each of the New World Darkness game lines. So all 9 of them, 10 of them?
I think it's 9.
I think it's 9. So Requiem's going to have an era in time. Which one was it?
Woodstock.
No. But anyway, all of them are going to have years in time. We're going to work together. Then, because we're Kickstartering it, we're actually going to really try to push what you can do with Kickstarter to the point where if we get enough feedback, and we haven't figured out exactly how to get it yet, but if we get enough feedback on the Kickstarter, we will expand certain sections. We will add in, like I know Matt McFarlane really wants to put his Innocence in an era there. Playing kids in the World of Darkness. Wants to get one of those in there. That'll be a stretch goal. And I think it'll be really exciting to see this book kind of go from a base idea, which is we're going to do all night, a chapter, X number of pages for each one of these things, to whatever it can become based on everyone's feedback during Kickstarter. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Exalted. And then the other thing that we purchased the rights to, we own the property, is Trinity. All Trinity, Aberrant, and Aeon. Trinity, Aberrant, and Adventure. But we've changed it to Trinity Continuum for the entire thing, and Aeon is back as the name for
And so MTV calls us.
Because fuck you, Viacom.
It's an ongoing discussion.
It ain't gonna change. Trinity Continuum Aeon, they can't sue me for that.
Right.
Okay, and that is where we ended in August. I just wanted to say one other thing because this tends to be important. Robbie, we're doing the 20th anniversary edition of Wraith, the Oblivion, developed by the only man who could do it, who deserves to do it, the beloved rich dead guy Dansky. He's already jotting down ideas. We had a really great talk about 2 weeks ago, and he's just going crazy nuts on it. So that is what we're doing partially into the end of 2014. Question.
We got about 8 minutes, so.
We can have 8 questions if they're minimal. Too many.
Alright, 2015, are you going to be doing this with drive-through cards? Rage?
So we have the license for tabletop role-playing games. Anything in addition to that is an additional thing we have to talk about. So basically almost everything, our very good friends who are going to be here in 7 nights now, do their panel on what is up with Buy Night Studios for live action. But I imagine that we're also going to have other people who are dealing with the card stuff.
I will say that we are talking about it. I can't go into details about those discussions. I will say that Vampire the Eternal Struggle specifically is a complicated one because it's also partially owned by Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro. So it's an ongoing discussion, but it's not as simple as just flip a switch, you have to make that game. It's a long, complicated discussion.
Also, but in case you doubt it, really love Rage. Love working on it. Love doing art for it. Love playing with it. V-Test, same sort of thing. So there's not a question of not wanting to.
Right.
It's more, these things are kind of complicated.
We're also running into some technology issues with the old cards.
Right. And how many of those files still exist, which is not a whole lot. Okay.
Yeah, can you give us any more information about the Enneagram Chronicle and Rose Fallen World piece you're working on?
Great. They're going to be great.
All right.
They
Actually,
It's going to be great.
In the interest of that, I think at least Stu has already started.
I think he started Itagam. Now I'm doing it.
That is mine.
Itagam Chronicles. I think he's outlining it.
Yes.
And Dave Brooks Shaw is thinking about it, but hasn't gotten to working on Fallen World yet.
So, while we know kind of the overall framework, like the concept behind what we're trying to do, which is similar to the other two Chronicle books, they're still kind of working out exactly what that means for them specifically. And I think that working out process, at least in Stu's case, and probably in Dave's if he gets himself feeling good about it, will be up on the Whitehall blogs. So you should be checking out how that happens. Pretty open. It's very comfortable with the process.
The schedule for book development also is a individual kind of case-by-case situation. Like, for example, the Anarchs book is coming out this December. I was actually working on drafts for Anarchs last December. Some books have more lead-up time, some books have less lead-up time, so it really depends on when the developer gets the okay to do the book and when he gets the authors lined up.
And also, some developers write very, very short outlines, and they do a lot of work with the writers on developing up. Other ones very intricate outlines ahead of time, and it takes time to read up before that you bring the writers into the process. So again, personal, creative process.
They did pitches of what they wanted to do, and that was exciting enough to say, yeah, you're the guy, you should do this. But now the real nitty gritty, I don't want to throw that out here because it can change while they're working on it at home. So.
Huge Mummy fan. Love what you guys are doing with that.
Cool.
Any chance that we'll actually see the judges vote?
There's certainly a chance. I think the big thing with it is because of the way things kind of set up, and because Colin had some really severe back issues, which he now was annoyed that I mentioned that to the Kickstarter crowd because you threw me under the bus. I'm like, I'm telling people what happened, man. He had really bad back issues. A lot of that stuff has been staggered more than we anticipated earlier, so we don't really know, right, like what kind of legs Mummy's going to have. Everybody get their Kickstarter books, and we get the first thing out, we get the ready-made characters, and then I think we'll have a better idea where that stuff's going to go. It's still on the table.
What's your approach for developing a classical darkness book compared to its companion medieval darkness book, like Masquerade and Requiem? How do you make those?
When we've done any of the V20 stuff, or any of the 20 stuff, rather, we want to have a really strong awareness of where everyone has played that before in the last 20 years, and how important certain concepts are to everyone playing. How we're not doing a brand new game. With what's happening with the Chronicle books is what we're being able to do now is really start veering away from a lot of the connections to the classical darkness in the New World darkness. So, Strix Chronicles, Blood and Smoke, is really going to feel pretty different than Masquerade, and more so than those two books when they first came out, where there were systemic changes. Oh, there's Covenant, but this is actually going to serve very thematically a little bit as well. I think that kind of thing, keeping that in mind, what can I do with the New World Darkness as a developer? That's kind of the question. Whereas I think with the classic, it's what did I love? What else can we bring back in and sort of say, hey, this was so awesome before. Let's do it this way and integrate it better, so that we can. Because again, we were just firing books off the
For the 20th anniversary stuff too, it's a question of not wanting to do rehashes and not just like collect stuff and reprint it, and instead say, what do people love about this? How can we present it in a new way that makes them want to get back into it and do it? One of the things that I keep wanting to do, it's not on the schedule yet, Rich hates it when I bring it up, is I want to do another True Black Hand.
Yeah.
And as the that's why I bring it up, so I get support here. And they obviously fell apart toward the end of Masquerade's era, so now this would be a chance to kind of not reboot them, but say what came out of the ashes, what happened there, but not get into a meta plot type of series where people feel like they have to month after month be consuming these things.
And the other thing about that is also to bear in mind that when we did the core book, that is really, we say this over and over again, I might have even reprinted it here because I liked it when I wrote it the first time, which is, it's a love letter to the fans. Actually, I think Shane, you might have written that for a good time. I might have stolen it from your press release. But it is very much about, we're trying to create something that everyone who's ever loved this classic game is going to page through and go, I love that, that's always my favorite part. Once we do that, the next books are capable of not being sort of frozen in that moment in time, but having other things added to them that maybe were never part of the classroom experience. And now we try that out. I mean, even the dumb thing that we ran into, which is, cell phone. Guess what we didn't have back in 92. So took this big. So that's another difference as well. A couple other questions?
One more question.
Talk to me after this. I could go into better detail any other questions before we go? Now the other thing is, at 1 o'clock we've got our blood cousins, as we're calling, By Night Studios, talking about what they're doing for Mind's Eye Theater for an hour. And then we're all going to sit down together here from 2 o'clock to potentially 4.
No, well, it's booked for 2 hours. We're not doing
Yeah,
2 hours.
exactly. Anybody have any more questions? Okay.
Right. So we can do a lot more of those questions.
If you think of something or you had some other question you couldn't get to here for this panel, you want to come back at 2 or 3?
2 o'clock, yeah. Yeah, 2 o'clock.
Please feel free. Also, for those who came later, we have the it's basically our 2013-2014 publishing schedule, which is not written in stone and is not a promise. But it's got a lot of fun, cool pictures, and it does have the schedule as we know it today, or at least when we printed this. And you're welcome to take those. We also have a new registration. Okay, well, thanks.